Spencer Lofranco had everything ahead of him. A rising star at 33, roles alongside Hollywood legends, and a smile that lit up every room. Then on a quiet Tuesday in British Columbia, everything stopped. And now, John Travolta is finally telling us what he noticed all along. The news broke on a Thursday morning. The kind of news that stops you mid-scroll. Spencer Lofranco, the young Canadian actor who brought intensity and raw talent to every role he touched, was gone, just 33 years old. His brother Santino posted a photo on Instagram, childhood memories frozen in time, accompanied by words no brother should ever have to write. The comment section filled with shock, with disbelief, with an overwhelming sense that something precious had been stolen from the world too soon. British Columbia officials confirmed they were investigating but offered little else. No cause of death, no clear answers, just the terrible finality of a life cut short, and a community left grasping for understanding. But while fans mourned and friends shared memories, one voice remained conspicuously silent. John Travolta, the legendary actor who had worked closely with Spencer on the crime drama Gotti, hadn't said a word. For days, nothing. And then, when he finally spoke, what he revealed would reframe everything we thought we knew about the young actor's final years. Spencer's story didn't begin in the bright lights of Hollywood. It started in the neighborhoods of Toronto, where a kid born in 1992 grew up with dreams bigger than the skyline. He wasn't born into the industry, he didn't have family connections, or a clear path to stardom. What he had was something more valuable, an undeniable presence, a natural charisma that made people pay attention even when he wasn't trying. His friends from those early years remember a teenager who could light up a room without effort. Naturally funny, effortlessly outgoing, the kind of person who made everyone around him feel a little more alive. He didn't just want to entertain, he needed to, making people laugh, making them feel something real. That was his oxygen. But Spencer's path wasn't typical. While many aspiring actors were heading to traditional performing arts schools, Spencer enrolled in a military high school in West Lincoln, Ontario. The discipline, the structure, the expectation of excellence under pressure, these weren't obstacles for him. They were preparation. The same focus that makes a soldier steady under fire would later help an actor stay grounded under the intensity of a camera lens and the weight of complex characters. After graduating, Spencer made the move that countless dreamers make. He headed to New York, enrolling in the New York Film Academy. This wasn't about getting a degree to hang on a wall. This was about craft, about learning to channel that natural charisma into something bigger, something that could translate through a screen and touch millions of people he'd never meet. His instructors saw it immediately. There was a rawness to Spencer's talent, an authenticity that couldn't be taught. When he performed, you believed him. When he heard on screen, you felt it. And when he smiled, that legendary smile, it was like watching the sun break through storm clouds. The break came in 2013 with a romantic comedy called Ed Middleton. It wasn't a blockbuster. It wasn't designed to be. But for Spencer playing Conrad, a high schooler touring a college campus alongside his father, it was everything. He shared the screen with Andy Garcia, with Vera Farmiga and her sister Thaisa, with respected veterans like Tom Skerritt. For a first film, it was a masterclass in learning from the best. And Spencer absorbed everything. He watched how the veterans carried themselves between takes, how they prepared, how they found truth in fictional moments. He asked questions. He took notes, not on paper but in the way he approached every scene that followed. The film premiered at film festivals, garnered positive reviews for its charm and authenticity, and introduced Spencer Lofranco to an industry that was about to take notice. Critics mentioned him specifically. There was something about this young actor, they said, something worth watching. But 2013 brought more than just professional triumph for Spencer. It also brought a moment that would test his character in ways no script ever could. He was involved in a hit-and-run accident that left a cyclist with a broken hip. The details were painful, the consequences severe. Spencer faced the legal system and accepted responsibility. 50 days of community service, 2 years of probation, and a staggering $161,000 in restitution. For many young actors, this would have been the end. The industry can be unforgiving, especially to those just starting out. But Spencer didn't run from what he'd done. He didn't hide behind lawyers or publicists. He served his sentence. He made his amends. And he let the experience reshape him. Friends from that period say it humbled him in profound ways. The natural confidence was still there, but now it was tempered with something deeper: empathy, awareness, an understanding that actions have consequences, and that redemption isn't given, it's earned. And Hollywood, surprisingly, gave him a chance to earn it. In 2014, Spencer landed the lead role in Jamesy Boy, a crime drama that would become his breakout performance. He played James Burns, a young ex-convict wrestling with the gravitational pull of gang violence and armed robbery, searching desperately for a way out of a life that seemed determined to destroy him. The role required Spencer to go to dark places, to tap into pain and desperation, and the razor-thin line between survival and self-destruction. He reunited with Tiasa Farmiga from his first film, but this time the material was heavier, more demanding. The cast included powerhouses like Mary Louise Parker, Ving Rhames, and James Woods. These weren't actors who tolerated anything less than complete commitment, and Spencer delivered. Reviews praised his intensity, his vulnerability, his ability to make you root for a character who had made terrible choices. You didn't just watch James Burns, you felt trapped in his skin, suffocating under the weight of his mistakes, desperately hoping he'd find a way to breathe. The performance put Spencer on the map. Casting directors took notice. Offers started coming in. And then came the call that would change everything. Angelina Jolie wanted him for Unbroken. Unbroken was massive. A World War II prisoner of war drama directed by one of Hollywood's biggest stars, adapted from Laura Hillenbrand's best-selling book, with a screenplay crafted by the Coen brothers Richard LaGravenese and William Nicholson. The film would go on to receive 3 Oscar nominations. Being part of that project, even in a supporting role, was a stamp of legitimacy that most actors spend entire careers chasing.
Spencer played Harry Brooks, a young radio operator who dies in the opening scene. It wasn't a large role in terms of screen time, but it required something specific. The character had to establish the stakes immediately, had to make the audience feel the devastating cost of war before the main story even began.
Spencer understood the assignment. His performance was brief but haunting, setting the emotional tone for everything that followed. Working with Angelina Jolie was transformative. She was exacting, demanding, but also nurturing with actors she believed in. Spencer absorbed her direction like a student who knew he was learning from a master. He shared scenes with Jack O'Connell and Domhnall Gleeson, actors whose careers were ascending rapidly. The bar was high. Spencer met it. The momentum continued. In 2015, he appeared in Dixieland, an independent crime drama that premiered at Tribeca Film Festival. He worked alongside Chris Zielke, Riley Keough, Steve Earle, and country music legend Faith Hill. The indie circuit was taking notice of this young actor who brought commitment and depth to every project, no matter the budget. That same year brought a short film called Home, where Spencer acted opposite the legendary Robert Forster. Short films don't pay much and rarely get wide distribution, but for serious actors, they're laboratories, places to experiment, to take risks, to work with respected veterans who can teach you things no class ever could. Spencer chose his projects carefully, always looking for opportunities to grow. In 2016, he joined the ensemble cast of King Cobra, a biographical film about the dark underbelly of the adult film industry. The cast included Garrett Clayton, Christian Slater, Alicia Silverstone, and Molly Ringwald. It was controversial material, the kind that could easily feel exploitative in the wrong hands. But Spencer approached it with the same seriousness he brought to everything else. He wasn't interested in shock value. He was interested in truth, in understanding the humans behind the headlines. And then came Gotti. In 2018, Spencer landed the role of John Gotti Jr. in the biographical crime film starring John Travolta as the infamous New York mobster John Gotti, with Travolta's real-life wife Kelly Preston playing Gotti's wife Victoria. The film would premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, one of the most prestigious showcases in world cinema. For Spencer, this wasn't just another role, playing the son of one of America's most notorious crime figures, acting opposite a Hollywood icon, having his performance scrutinized on the world's biggest stage. The pressure was immense, but Spencer had been preparing for this moment his entire career. The role required him to capture the complexity of a man born into a legacy he never asked for, torn between loyalty to his father and the desire to forge his own path. It required subtlety, restraint, the ability to communicate volumes with a glance or a moment of silence. Spencer delivered a performance that critics said held its own even alongside Travolta's commanding presence. But something else happened on that set, something that wouldn't become clear until years later.
John Travolta, a man who had experienced the highest highs and lowest lows of fame, who had survived decades in an industry that chews up and spits out most who enter it, saw something in Spencer Lofranco. He saw the talent, of course, that was obvious. But he also saw the weight, the pressure, the isolation that comes with being a young actor trying to navigate an industry that demands everything and offers very little support when things get dark.
During filming, Travolta made a point of checking in with Spencer between takes. Not just about the work, but about life. About how he was handling everything. About whether he had people around him he could trust. These weren't casual conversations. Travolta was concerned. Other cast and crew members noticed it too. The way Travolta would pull Spencer aside, the quiet conversations that lasted longer than typical actor small talk. Some assumed it was just Travolta being generous with his time, mentoring a younger talent. But those who knew Travolta well recognized something else: worry. When Gotti wrapped, Spencer's career seemed poised for the next level. He'd worked with major directors, proven himself opposite Hollywood legends, and built a resume that most actors would envy. The future should have been bright. But something shifted. Spencer's presence in Hollywood began to fade. There were no new film announcements, no red carpet appearances, no interviews about upcoming projects. His social media, once active with behind-the-scenes photos and updates, became sporadic and eventually nearly silent. In 2021, Spencer relocated to Surrey, British Columbia. For those who knew him, the move seemed sudden. Surrey is a far cry from Los Angeles or New York, the traditional hubs where actors build and maintain careers. It's quiet, residential, removed from the entertainment industry's constant churn. Friends and former colleagues reached out occasionally, checking in. Spencer would respond, always friendly, always upbeat. But the conversations felt different. Shorter, more guarded. He'd mention projects he was working on, opportunities he was exploring, but nothing concrete ever materialized. His final social media post encouraged followers to subscribe to his OnlyFans account. The platform, known primarily for adult content, had become a revenue stream for many performers during the pandemic and beyond. Whether Spencer actually maintained an active presence there remains unclear, but the post itself revealed something. He was looking for income, for connection, for relevance in an industry that had seemingly moved on. Those close to Spencer say the years after Gotti were difficult in ways the public never saw. The film, despite premiering at Cannes, received brutal reviews. Critics savaged it. The Rotten Tomatoes score was historically low. While Spencer's performance received some praise, being part of a high-profile failure carries its own weight. The phone stops ringing as often. The opportunities become fewer and further between. For young actors especially, the gap between projects can be psychologically devastating. The validation that comes from working, from being wanted, from feeling relevant, when that disappears, it leaves a void that's hard to fill. And Spencer, for all his natural charisma and outgoing personality, was dealing with that void far from the support systems and communities where he'd built his career. Then came that Tuesday in November 2024. The day Spencer Lofranco's story ended at just 33 years old. His brother Santino's tribute was heartbreaking in its simplicity. He called Spencer a legend, said he'd lived a life many only dream of, shared that his brother had changed people's lives. The childhood photos he posted showed two brothers with their whole futures ahead of them, neither knowing how short one of those futures would be. Santino's final words carried the weight of a grief too massive to fully express. "I will always love you and miss you, Bear." The investigation in British Columbia continued, but officials released no details about the cause of death. Speculation filled the void, as it always does, but the people who knew Spencer best weren't focused on speculation. They were focused on the sudden, incomprehensible absence of someone who should still be here. And then days after the news broke, John Travolta posted. The message was brief, but it hit like a thunderclap. Travolta wrote about the pressures young actors face in an industry that offers fame but rarely provides the support systems necessary to handle it. He wrote about the loneliness that can exist even in rooms full of people. He wrote about Spencer specifically, about the talent he saw, but also about the struggles he recognized, struggles Travolta himself had witnessed and worried about years earlier on the set of Gotti. Travolta revealed that he'd reached out to Spencer multiple times after filming Wrapped. He'd wanted to stay connected, to make sure the young actor had someone he could talk to. Sometimes Spencer would respond enthusiastically. Other times, weeks would pass with no reply. Travolta understood what that silence might mean. He'd seen it before in others. He'd felt it himself during his own darkest periods. The statement concluded with a plea that Hollywood start having honest conversations about mental health, about the unique pressures actors face, especially young actors trying to sustain careers in an industry with no safety net. Travolta called for better support systems, for more resources, for an end to the stigma that prevents people from asking for help until it's too late. The response from the entertainment community was immediate and overwhelming. Fellow actors shared their own stories of struggle, of depression, of the masks they wore in public while falling apart in private. Directors and producers acknowledged the industry's role in creating environments that prioritize production over people. Mental health organizations praised Travolta for using his platform to address an issue that claims too many lives too soon. But perhaps most significantly, Travolta's statement reframed how people understood Spencer's final years. The move to British Columbia wasn't just a geographic change. The gaps between projects weren't just bad luck. The silence on social media wasn't just disinterest. These were signs, visible in retrospect, of someone who was struggling, someone who needed help but may not have known how to ask for it, or may have asked in ways that weren't heard. Spencer Lofranco's legacy exists in the films he left behind. You can watch him in Jamesy Boy and see the raw talent that first captured Hollywood's attention. You can see him in Unbroken and witness his ability to establish emotional stakes in mere minutes of screen time. You can watch Gotti and understand why Travolta saw something special worth protecting. But his legacy also exists in the conversation his death has sparked, about young actors and mental health, about success and isolation, about the responsibility we all share to check in on the people around us, especially those who seem fine on the surface. Spencer's brother said, "He lived a life many only dream of." And in many ways that's true. He acted in major films. He worked with legends. He brought characters to life that touched audiences around the world. But the flip side of that dream is the nightmare we're only beginning to acknowledge. The pressure, the instability, the lack of support, the crushing weight of trying to sustain a career in an industry that offers very little mercy. Mental health professionals who work with actors say the industry is uniquely challenging. The constant rejection, the irregular income, the public scrutiny, the requirement to be vulnerable on camera while maintaining a put-together image in real life. These aren't factors that exist in most professions, and for young actors especially, those who haven't yet built financial security or developed coping mechanisms, the challenges can become overwhelming. Spencer Lofranco should still be here. He should be working on his next role, laughing with his brother, making audiences feel something real through his performances. The fact that he's not represents a failure that extends beyond any one individual. It's a systemic failure, an industry failure, a collective failure to prioritize the well-being of the people who create the art we consume. John Travolta's willingness to speak honestly about what he observed, about his concerns and his regrets, represents an important step, but it's only a step. Real change requires more than statements. It requires action, better mental health resources on set, stronger support systems for actors between projects, industry leaders who prioritize people over profits, a culture that treats asking for help as strength rather than weakness. Spencer's story doesn't have a happy ending, but it can have meaning. Every person who watches his films and sees the depth of his talent carries forward his legacy. Every conversation about mental health in Hollywood that happens because of his death honors his memory. Every young actor who feels empowered to ask for help because others spoke honestly about their struggles benefits from the awareness his passing has created. The investigation in British Columbia will eventually conclude, official findings will be released, but the larger investigation into how we support artists, how we address mental health, how we create industries that sustain rather than destroy the people within them, that investigation is just beginning. Spencer Lofranco was 33 years old. He was a talented actor, a beloved brother, a friend who made people laugh, a presence that lit up every room he entered. He was also a human being navigating challenges we're only beginning to understand, fighting battles we never saw, struggling in ways he may never have fully expressed. John Travolta saw it. He tried to help, and now in the aftermath of unthinkable loss he's making sure we see it too. Not to assign blame, but to inspire change. Not to dwell on what's lost, but to protect those who remain. Spencer's final performance was in Gotti, a film about legacy, family, loyalty, and the weight of expectations. Those themes now echo through his own story in ways no one could have scripted. His legacy will be the films he left behind, and the conversations he sparked by leaving too soon. To Spencer Lofranco, the legend, the brother, the actor, who deserved more time, may your memory inspire the changes that could have saved you, and may those changes save others who struggle in silence. You lived a life many dream of, and you will not be forgotten.